This is Abby Passinault. Today is May 2nd. I am interviewing Mary Passinault, a longtime parishioner at Immaculate Heart of Mary Parish in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Thanks for speaking with me today.
You're very welcome, Abby.
Please restate your name and tell what year you joined Immaculate Heart.
All right, I am Mary Passinault, and we came to IHM Parish in March of 1968.
Okay. What was it like when you joined?
Well, it was very different than it is now in many ways, but also the same. Different mostly in buildings, but the same friendly people, wonderful school, and wonderful children in the school.
Can you describe your family at the time?
At the time, we had 4 children, years old. We had Stephen, who was 5. We had David, who was 4. We had Tommy, who was 3. And our 4th son, Joel, was born in May of that year. And our 6th son, Jim, was born 2 years later.
Who was the pastor when you joined?
When we joined, Father Kilgore was the pastor, and that's the name that we have the Kilgore Foundation named after, to aid students if they need help financially.
What was your relationship like with him?
Well, he was only here for a few months after we joined, and so we really didn't get to know him real well, but he was very outgoing, very social, a very fine priest.
Okay. What do you remember about him most?
I remember how enthusiastic he was, not only about building a new church, but also about building a school that would be here forever for the children to have a Catholic education.
What other priests do you have memories of?
Well, I remember Father Lawless very well. He was a wonderful pastor. When he would come in, he had beautiful silver hair, and he was a very impressive priest. He also was very kind, a very generous man.
Are there any other ones?
Oh, yes, there were so many, and I hate to leave any out, but some of them that stand out were Father Hollywood, who had a very dry wit, Father Blaney, who was here a short time and died unexpectedly, but spent so much time in the school with the children, Father Cooney, who was a tremendous homilist, and Father Tom Crump, who was probably a saint, a living saint, who had been imprisoned during the war and became very spiritual because of that. And he also died while he was here at the parish, and very well loved.
Okay. Did your children go to IHM school?
Absolutely, and that's why we bought our house here, because we knew that IHM was a good school, and we found a house in the area that we really liked, and all 6 children went here from kindergarten through 8th grade.
What were the kind of impressions that the teachers and principals had on your children?
Well, we were very blessed. We had mostly Dominican sisters, and both the principals that were here for my children were Dominican sisters, and the majority of teachers were Dominican sisters who wore their habits, and the lay teachers were wonderful too, but we were very blessed to have so many nuns.
What activities and groups did you get involved in with at IHM?
Okay. Well, first of all, I was a Eucharistic minister. I was a lector. I was very active in the Women's Guild. I was among the people who started what now is God's Kitchen, but at that time it was Capitol Lunch, and we started in a very small restaurant on Bridge Street, and that has grown. I taught religious ed for 25 years, the majority of the time preparing children for reconciliation in Eucharist, which I loved very, very much. And then I loved the school so much that I came here and taught school for 20 years, 1st grade, 2nd grade, and 4th grade.
Are there any of those groups that you are still involved in today?
Yes, actually, we started a prayer group, and that is still going. It has now changed to the Cenacle of Divine Mercy, but many of the women that I started with are still in that group, and I still am a lector. I'm still in the Women's Guild, and I still help with funeral buffets. And when we first did funeral buffets, we had to be in the all-purpose room, which was in the basement of the rectory. So now it's so wonderful to have both the mezzanine room and the gym and a wonderful kitchen.
Okay. What specific memories do you have about new things at IHM, such as new buildings, new programs, and new ways of doing things?
Well, physically, especially the school. When we first moved here, the church was almost brand new, and the school was very small, and the gym was in the old church, and now we have a beautiful gym. The whole wing was added with kindergarten to first grades, the beautiful office and the principal's office. Just the whole physical plant is totally different and beautiful.
Were there a lot less kids when going to school here when you guys joined?
Unfortunately, school was overflowing. And when I first taught here, we had 2 portable classrooms because we didn't have enough classrooms for all the children. And I actually taught in one of the portable classrooms that was just out in the grass between the school and Burton Street. And we had a waiting list for children to come here.
What's different at IHM now that you miss about former times?
I miss the nuns. I miss the school being full. I disliked the waiting list very, very much because we had to turn children away, and I didn't like that at all. But I miss seeing the nuns in the classrooms. I miss seeing the nuns as principals. I miss the teachers that were so dedicated, and the teachers are dedicated now too. But I wish we could bring back some nuns, and I wish we could bring back a full school again.
Have the priests and or parishioners helped you through tough times in your life?
We have been very blessed not to have terribly tough times, but when my parents died and when my brother died, they were very present to us and came to visitation and so forth, and it was very deeply appreciated.
When did your parents or brother die?
I have to go way back. My brother died in the early 70s. My father died in the 80s, early 80s, and my mother died in the late 80s.
So that was after you joined
Mm-hmm.
parish. Discuss how your life has been enriched by being a member of IHM.
Well, I just must say that IHM Parish was our second home, our second family. The friends that we made when we first joined are still our friends. It really became our life because our children were so involved here. All 6 boys were altar boys. At one time, they even had fathers and sons that were altar boys together, and that was really cool. The boys played sports here. They did just about everything. Their father did most of the sports physicals. Their father was a school board president at one time. It was our life. I must say that it was just our life. It was very, very important.
What sports did they play here?
They played football, basketball, and baseball.
And did your husband, Grandpa, coach any of them?
Grandpa assisted coaching, but because he was a surgeon and on call so often, he was not able to be the head coach. But he was I don't think he missed any games. He had his whole office schedule fixed so that he could be at all the boys' games.
And is there anything else that you would like to say about IHN Parish?
Oh, I would just like to say that we just had so many wonderful priests, so many wonderful sisters, so many wonderful lay teachers, so many wonderful friends. The other thing that I forgot was that Grandpa and I were on the pre-Cana team preparing young people for marriage. So we got to know a lot of the young people as they started their married lives out. Grandpa did the doctor talks about the physical part of marriage, and I did the spiritual talks on how young couples spiritually could grow together in God and pray together. And that was a wonderful experience for Grandpa and for me, and I hope for young people.
Did you do that for a while, or was it just for a short period?
No, we did that for several years. And then I think that they decided that they were going to do it in homes and just run like couple to couple. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what your parents had when they were married. Also, one of the big changes was the school picnic. We used to go out to Dutton Park, and there was a creek there, and there was a big baseball diamond, and the children would go out and find treasures, and I know your dad and all your uncles would remember that as being a real fun occasion. And also, I think the altar boy picnics were out there. And I keep saying altar boys because there were no altar girls at that time. And so that was just a lot of fun that I think that the children remembered.
Were they like spiritual, or was it just kind of just...
The picnic?
Yeah.
Actually, we had Mass first, and then all the fun activities. And we would have a master of ceremonies, and we would have door prizes, and we'd buy tickets for that, and some organized games and a baseball game, and just mostly just fun.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, I think that's all we have.
There are two things that I would also like to add. When we were Eucharistic ministers, we also would be the Eucharistic minister at Mass, and then we would wait after Mass, receive the hosts, and we would take them to the homebound, those that weren't able to come to Mass. And that was very, very important to make them feel that we had just come from Mass, and now we were sharing the Eucharist with them. I wanted to say was I really miss the fact that when my children went to school here, there were 3 priests, so that the pastor wasn't so overburdened, and the other 2 priests could spend more time in the school and at sporting events and with the sick and at all the social events and so forth. And I pray that there will be many vocations that come from our school, and that someday maybe we will send priests and sisters back to our school and back to our parish.
Were there like designated priests that like one priest would go and do all the sporting events, one priest would say Mass?
Usually the assistants did those kinds of things. No, they all said Mass because we had more Masses. We had daily Mass, we had a morning Mass and an afternoon Mass every day. And that was very nice for me because I had little children, so I could go to the 5:15 Mass during the week, put my supper in the oven, and by the time I got back home from Mass, my casserole would be done and I could feed my family. And so there are just so many more things we can do if we could just have more priests and sisters. My children's favorite teachers, the 2 nuns that they loved the most, were Sister Sheila and Sister Marie Jude. And we had a wonderful DRE, Sister Marie Vianney, who was a living saint. She was a beautiful, beautiful person. A remedial reading teacher named Sister Yvonne, who was also just a joy. And our children's favorite lay teachers were Mrs. Mick and Mr. Bergman.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's cool.
So I'm glad that we got that. Let's see if we,
Think.
oh, can I also say one more thing? Okay. After I retired, I missed the children so much that I came back to tutor. And I am still tutoring at the present, and I hope to be able to tutor for a long time. So I
Do you
did-
come every day of the week and tutor?
No, I used to come 2 days a week, 2 half days a week, and now I come 1 full day. I tutor some in the morning and some in the afternoon, and it's just a joy to be back in the school, to see my grandchildren in the school, and to tutor children who need my help.
Do you tutor just like one grade or like all different age groups?
Well, I told them because I pretty much taught grades 1 through 4 that I would prefer those grades. And so the last few years, I actually did grades 1 through 5. So,
Okay. Alrighty. I think.
Okay. It's right over there.
I just wanted to say that the friends that we made when our children were in school here are still our friends, and especially those we were in prayer groups and Bible studies with, we still pray with them. We also keep in touch with our former pastors who are still living, the active ones and those who have retired. And if I had to add a favorite priest today, I would say we're very blessed to have Father Troy. Okay.
So thank you for speaking with me today. On behalf of the parish, thank you for all you've done to make Immaculate Heart of Mary such a wonderful parish.
Well, it has given us more than we have given them, and I must add that at present we have 7 grandchildren here at the school, which we are so proud of, and 2 more that graduated from here, so 9 altogether. And we just hope that our great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren will be able to come here, and that we'll just fill the school back up again.
Alrighty.